we're on survival mode, because that's just how it is. You come to a new country and like, let's work. We have to work. We have to work. We have to make money. It's the survival. But we're not being taught how to be this human, how to operate, how to navigate our emotions, how to self-regulate, even signs of what anxiety is, what stress is. I don't want to say like what's right or wrong, because that's so subjective, but essentially just how to navigate this world. And a lot of those interpersonal things aren't being passed down because of generational trauma or whatever it may be. Because there's a lot of Latinas doing it on their own as well. And I hope to bring all of us together so that we can share our wisdom, share our tools, so that we can resonate with each other and heal together. And that also comes with like me having to do the work by myself and feeling alone. And had I had a community, or even like knew where to look, maybe my healing journey would have gone a little bit faster or better, who's to say. But in providing that, like, community is such a big part also in the healing journey.
Yeah, definitely. We are stronger together is what everyone's story might be a little bit different, right? But we're all walking alongside each other, and any opportunity we get to support and share and nurture those connections is something that I definitely encourage anyone and everyone to take that opportunity. And there was gone in your life, you were stuck in survival mode, right? And I want to talk about survival mode because it's a very real thing. And it is something that I would say is very hard to get out of. I would say that was the hardest part of my journey, was getting myself to a place to where my body was no longer like in a constant dissociation, in a constant, that just survival mode in every single way. I feel like that sometimes is kind of pushed aside when people talk about things of like hopelessness and those feelings of how am I going to get out of this? And also, I feel like there's also a point to where you don't even know that you're in it. And so, yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. What was that like for you? Or like, what advice would you give to someone that's still in that mode right now? Maybe that's listening, that doesn't even know they're in it. What are some signs maybe?
Yeah. So for me, I didn't know that I was in that mode. Like, I also, like, being so young, a teenager, like, you're just living your kid life, right? And you start developing skills and learning who you are. And because of the trauma that I experienced in losing my father so quickly, I just started becoming this person. And I thought that that's who I was. Like, that was me. That was my personality. And when I was faced with my breakdown and having to do the work, I still didn't know I was in survival mode. And so a lot of the time, like, how I describe it now, it's basically your ego taking over, but in reality is your sympathetic system that's taking over. And a lot of the time it's signs of depression, anxiety, avoidance, defensiveness. Your body is going to react in so many different ways, like crying. Like, I used to cry every day, like every day. It got to the point where I would even question, like, do I even want to be here anymore? And if it gets like all these very negative, low thoughts, like, I had really low self-esteem too. Like, even though I pushed myself to do all these things, get the degree, get the jobs, like, my confidence and my self-esteem were very low. And essentially, like, I was beating myself up. Like, I was emotionally abusing myself. And when I realized that, like, that truth hit me even harder, because I was not kind to myself for many, many years. And I put so much pressure on myself. So those are some signs. Like, everyone's going to experience it differently, because there's survival mode is, again, like the sympathetic system, and it could be fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And everyone's going to react differently. But normally it's going to be the fight or the flight. And if you can't do those, you're going to freeze. So if you're being if you're being defensive and wanting to, like, start fights with people, or that's probably gonna be your fight. And if you're fleeing, like, if you can't handle confrontation, you don't want to face it, you're gonna run away and hide. If you are fawning, that's people pleasing. So there's all these little things that and again, these things I didn't know. I learned that over time because I'm like this researcher where I just need to know more information. And so that's how I started learning and like linking back and thinking, okay, this is what I was doing. Like, this is connected to this, and this is how I was reacting, and it's connected to that. And so if you are experiencing some of these symptoms or reactions, I still call it my ego when it steps in and wants to defend me, but I have to self-soothe and be like, no, it's not that, Lesslie. And to me, I call it my highest self. It's these two parts of me that I've learned to kind of balance within myself. But yeah, those are definitely some signs if you're might be, stress is a big one too, and anxiety, but your body will tell you, like your body gives you these signs. If you're sweating, if your heart's beating, if you're clenching your jaw, biting your nails, biting my lip. I used to bite my lip like crazy. Like I would be destroyed because I had so much anxiety at one point. But these are all tell signs. Like, just pay attention to your body and see how it's reacting.
Yeah, that one is so important because, yeah, your body, whether you realize it or you don't, it will literally stop you in your tracks if you keep on ignoring the signs that it's giving you, especially when it comes to like your mental health, anxiety, stress, depression, like all of those, they eventually snowball until you can't ignore it anymore. And I feel like that is truly what happened to me. As someone who lives and struggles with panic, I feel like there came a point where I was panicking every single day because my body said, you are now having to face yourself. You have to face the things that you avoided for so long, the things that you chose not to look at, the things that you put away and stuff like that. So my body literally said, you have no choice anymore. You have to start healing. You have to start this process, because if you don't, you're going to be stuck in this constant cycle, right? And I think that point is very important, is also that if you're not in that space yet, right, to where your body is like, hell no, you better do something about it. So if you're not there yet, but you're starting to feel it, you actually have an advantage to start asking questions, to start looking for resources, to start looking for coaches or people that can help you on your healing journey, because you haven't gotten to that point yet. So that's my advice for anyone who's like, starting to feel that overwhelm. Like, do something about it. You have the power to do something about it, and there's no shame in asking for help. And if you are at the lowest point, that's okay as well. If you're listening to this as well, you're doing something about it already. You're listening to people that have been on very different life experiences, but are sharing their knowledge, sharing their wisdom, and wanting to help you. So hope is out there. So hang in there. Little message for anyone listening. I also wanted to ask you a little bit about how being a creator, like using your social media in your life, do you feel like that's helped you or that it doesn't? Because I've been very interested in this, because for myself, I really feel like what I've created and the content that I make has really helped me, especially at the beginning. It helped me take the shame away from what I was going through. It helped be like, this is me, this is what I'm going through, and if people resonate, great, amazing. If I help someone, that's the most important part, right? I know you also kind of felt similarly, but have you felt like making a TikTok and making content helps you in any way?
So I'm going to share a little bit of my social media journey, because after I did the healing part and I was kind of out of it, like I still continued a transformation and eventually found myself in this spiritual journey. And I was actually off of social media for over a year. I didn't have the apps. I didn't do Instagram. I didn't do TikTok. I had consumed TikTok, but then I deleted everything, like for over a good year. And when I started my coaching certification, it takes 6 months to complete. A big component was getting out there through social media, online, having an online presence. And for me, it was nerve-wracking because for many years, I didn't post. I just didn't really consume a whole lot. And then I was out of the social media world for a while. And so that, in trying to learn how to open up my throat chakra and like sharing my message, took some practice. It took going into myself and thinking about, why do I want to do this? Why am I going to show up on social media? Is it going to help me, or is it going to help others? And so I walked myself through this series of questions, and I decided that I needed to share, because there's people out there who might need to hear the message or who might not. Whatever it is, I felt this desire of sharing, because if I was able to do it, you can do it too. So That's why I started showing up on TikTok, and TikTok felt so authentic to me. Instagram, I had already it didn't resonate with me for a very long time because of the aesthetic part of it. I know it's been changing and trying to compete with TikTok, but for me, TikTok was like a way of, I can show up as my true self, because I've never liked to be this, let's picture perfect. Like, I'm going to show up real, raw me. Like, it's hard for me to hide my emotions or my feelings sometimes. Like, I wear them on my sleeve. And so TikTok gave me that permission to show myself. And creating content, it's like also figuring out what's going to resonate, what's going to connect, how are you going to connect with people? And it's been a journey for me in learning how to navigate social media, definitely. But for me, it's helped me with my voice and sharing my message and getting myself out of that comfort zone, because for so long I did hide myself. But I tell myself, I'm not really doing this for me. I'm doing it for anyone who needs the help.
Speak on the podcast, like I meet them through TikTok, right? So they're usually like creating and like making stuff all the time, and I'm always like curious. I'm like, do you really feel like it helps you? Because there's always two aspects of everything, right? There's a lot of people that argue that like TikTok and social media is like super bad for everyone, and it can be a place of like toxicity. It can be a place where you make a lot of comparison and stuff like that. So you can argue for both, right? So I do like to elevate though that there are people like you and people like me where we can use those platforms for our advantage to help others, and also to help ourselves find our voices and just be authentic and be ourselves and have a space to do that, right? Because taking up space is something in this world that, and we'll bring it right back to what you were doing with Latinas helping Latinas heal, right? That's what it is.
Yes.
You can bring it back to that, because oftentimes as a Latina and as a woman, you're not encouraged to take up space, right? You're commonly kind of put in a box or in a narrative, and breaking out of that cycle or breaking out of it is something that takes a while, right? Everyone has their own process with that. But for me as well, it's just like, I'm allowed to take up space. I'm allowed to share my story. I'm allowed to do whatever I want, because we have the tools to do it, and if we're able to break through that like self-doubt and like use it to our advantage, it's something beautiful, and like your content helps so many people. I literally, and like this is no joke, I commented on it when I saw it this weekend. I was out of the house, like I was at my partner's parents' house, and I was feeling like pretty anxious, because I just get anxious when I leave the house. But I saw your video that was like, sit with me, take a breath with me, and I actually did it, and I was like, oh, that was so nice. I'm actually gonna speak to her this week, so that was awesome. But I really did it, and it gave me a moment of peace. And it's just those little things where it's something small, but it's something that you just never know who might see it and actually do it, or actually resonate and think about it, and it helps their day. I mean, it literally reminded me I need to take a moment to breathe and stop.
Yeah. And something that I need to comment on too is, like, as a creator, you're looking at your analytics, like, what are people viewing, what aren't they? And a lot of the time, like, those types of videos that I make, wherever, if it's like a short little meditation or breath work, like, there's not a lot of views, but I still post them, because I'm like, maybe the one person,
Same.
maybe there's one person who will just need that reminder. Sometimes we do need that reminder, because we're so in our heads that we don't take a moment to breathe. And then that has been one of my biggest lessons as well, and very early on, because I would just overanalyze, overthink, and it would just add to my anxiety. And really, like, in helping me heal was finding mindfulness and what I was doing, what I was experiencing, and that helped me become more self-aware and doing these practices and giving myself those little breaks. Sometimes we just need a little bit of a break, even if it's 30 seconds, 1 minute. It can make such a difference. But I'm glad that helped you and that the video found you.
Yeah, no, it did at the right moment. Literally, I was like, oh, perfect. It reminded me to take a breath and then put my phone away, because that's literally what it was. But that part is so important. I feel like having that mindfulness and taking the time to like really reset yourself is so key. And we really underestimate just the power of like putting everything away, taking a moment for yourself. And that's where I've also found a lot of peace on this journey. Breath work has been number one that has helped me through so much of this. I actually met through TikTok a breathwork coach, and he has helped me so much, because it's really helped me like come back to my body and reset my system. And it has just been so key to really embracing mindfulness and being present, because I feel like before I had the awareness, but I just didn't know how to do it because it was so hard for my body to calm down. But it's because I wasn't doing anything like actively to reroute how my body was operating and actually like come back to the moment, you know? So, and I guess I'll take that to my next topic. Is kind of like, there's so many different ways that people work on their healing, right? And there's so many different techniques. There's breath work, there's meditation, there's hypnosis, there's so many things, right? But everyone has a different experience on what works for them and what doesn't work for them. But I wanted to hear a little bit about you, about what you would recommend to people that are really struggling right now to try out, or where would you suggest that they start with things? You know, maybe for that person who's listening to this that's in the dark night of their soul and they really feel like they don't know how they're even going to get out of it. Like, what advice or what starting point would you give to them, just to kind of, you know, remind them that they do have the ability to move forward?
Yeah, something that I work on with my clients when starting the healing journey. Basically, when you come at that point, you're like, you don't know what else to do. You might be in a desperate situation, or like you said, that dark night of the soul. Mindfulness practices, getting in touch with your senses, and coupling that with your breath. One of the tools that helped me very early on was looking at my surroundings. Get in touch with your sight, your touch, what you're hearing, if you're eating, what you're tasting, and describing them. Okay, the sky is blue, there's a few clouds, or if you're driving, is it bumpy, is it smooth? And reminding yourself every so often, let me do this tool really quick. And that helped me, and I know that it's helped others bounce out of that constant trail of thoughts that just can take its own and
what is it? Catastrophizing everything.
Yes. And wearing reminders. I would wear a bracelet. I would buy these small little temporary tattoos and like put it on myself in the back of my hand or in my wrist to be like, okay, don't forget, you have to do your little mindfulness exercise. And then coupling that with your breath as you're doing it, like, because a lot of the time when we're thinking, our breath is so shallow. We need to start doing some belly breaths and just paying attention how the air is moving through your body. That's another one too. And those are kind of those little breaks that you sometimes need. So I've heard people say like, oh, it's a distraction. Like, yeah, it kind of is, but you have this element of awareness. So is it really distracting? You're just making a choice to not give into those thoughts. A lot of the time we just give into it and we just let it take its own thing, and sometimes it's harmful.
Yeah, no, and honestly, I feel like, yeah, one could argue it's a distraction, right? But honestly, I feel like, especially for the person who is in the darkest moment, who might be in that survival mode, I really feel like reminding yourself that you can connect to your external environment is so important, because oftentimes we get so out of reality that we don't even know it, and just coming back to what is actually here is so important and very underestimated, the power of it. Like I always say, like ice is my best friend. When I was struggling like every single day with panic, like I would have ice around me all the time because ice was reminding me to come back to the present, right? Because when you're struggling with a lot of anxiety, you're always in the future, in the past, you're rarely in the present, so nothing is ever like making any sense, right? So allowing yourself to come back to the moment, like you said, and like doing those tools of like, what's actually around me? Can I find 30 black things in my room? You know, just kind of little things. It sounds so silly, but I feel like that is something that people also need to release, that thought of like, oh, why would I just sit here and like call out stuff I see? It's like, no, there's a lot of power in that. There's so much power in those little like coping skills that people kind of brush aside sometimes. And it's like, no, it's a moment to stop, remind yourself that you're here and that you're not in whatever thought that's provoking you the anxiety. You know, so there's a lot of power in those little tools for sure. I also wanted to say, what's another like okay, no, here's a better question. What is your favorite coping skill or like coping tool that you give to people or that you use for yourself?
I've gone through different phases. Definitely meditation and breath work has been one of my biggest tools.
I say
to be able to
tools, yeah.
tools to come back to myself. A lot of the time it's experimental though. Not everyone's going to experience it differently, like you said. And one thing that I do have to say is like, don't be afraid to make up your own tools. I mean, that's what I did. Like if you need to do a cross between breath work and naming 5 things like that, like I said, that works. I mean, that's something that I've just kind of created for myself too. But yeah, meditation, even if it starts with like 5 minutes of a guided meditation, that's how I started through those apps, and being able to sit with myself. It is difficult at the beginning, but there's so much growth in that you don't realize that you're doing. And that's something that I come back to time and time again over the last few years, is giving myself this time to meditate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Meditation, and it's so interesting how everyone is just so different, because I know meditation does not work for a lot of people, but I will say, I'm like, if it does work for you or you haven't tried it and you like are thinking about it, like just go for it, because if it does work for you, it is honestly so soothing. It is so important also to find the right meditations. It's taken me a while to find some that like actually really resonate with me. So that's something else. Maybe don't give up on it if you're someone that's like, but like I don't really like it. I'm like, but have you really tried finding one that like really resonates with you? Because there's so many different kinds. There's some that I don't like to do either, you know, and that's okay. But it's so important. Find the ones you like. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a variety of a teacher or a guide. That there's a variety of how they deliver it, and also too sometimes like the voice has something to do with it, the music. When doing guided meditations, that's definitely like a gateway to getting into meditation, because you could get to a point where you're doing those and then you can just sit with yourself in silence. Like that's a whole other level of being able to meditate, or doing meditations with minimal guidance and being okay with being in the unknown and then sitting with yourself. But it takes practice. It's definitely a muscle that you kind of grow and work over time. But I myself love to give guided meditations. Like that is one of the things, because I come from a place of the healing that I had to do was a lot of self-soothing for my anxiety and stress, that the way that I speak when I do my own guided meditations is bringing that element of calm. And I do have meditations on SoundCloud that I upload, and one of the things that people always tell me, like, your voice is so soothing, so calming, because I just get into this space of transferring almost that energy. And that's probably hopefully going to resonate with someone who experiences anxiety, because I've
Yeah.
tried some guided meditations where like this is adding to my anxiety, and
Oh yeah, I definitely have had those too. I'm just like, this isn't doing anything for me.
and something else too. It's like, just because this tool is working for you now doesn't mean it's going to work for you then. Like, we're experiencing different things, and it's being able to collect, I like to call them like nurturing rituals, or like your resiliency toolkit. It's basically like your coping kit, where you know all these tools and you know how to apply the right medicine to the symptom. Because there's been times where certain breath work has worked for me because I'm experiencing this anxiety, and then I can experience anxiety again, and it's just adding to my anxiety. So then I have to kind of go into my toolkit and be like, okay, what do I need to do? And sometimes it takes some experimenting. Like I was saying, like, don't be afraid to combine things and try it out. Sometimes you just have to do a few movements and just breathe with it and let your body speak for you sometimes, because that's going to be more healing. Like, you have this wisdom within you. Like, it knows what to do, and just sometimes you just have to kind of let it come out.
Yeah, 100% trusting yourself. And I know that that's another whole huge part of it, is how to even find trust with yourself again. But once you can get to that space of like even knowing like, hey, maybe I don't need to meditate today. There's some days where I just put on music that I used to listen to when I was little and like just dance however I want to dance to it, and like feel it and just let it out, because my body needs to move, and that has the same effect sometimes, So definitely I love your call to anyone listening to know that you can make it up as you go. It doesn't have to be this like rigid plan that you follow. Like, no, you can do whatever you want. Do what feels good,
Absolutely. And a lot of the time it's like, these are the steps you have to take, A, B, and C, 1, 2, 3. But everyone's journey is different. And like, when I show up as a coach and I'm posting something on social media, like, again, it might work for you, might not work for you, but like, that's why I like working with clients one-on-one, because it's so tailored to your experience, where I'm just making suggestions, holding you accountable, guiding you along, and empowering you to do these on your own, to kind of figure it out, just really kind of holding your hand in a way, and letting you know it's okay. It's okay to try it. If it didn't work, let's try something else. And that's all it really is. Like, there is no cookie cutter to how to experience the healing journey. We just need to have some sort of toolkit so that we can respond appropriately. And sometimes you outgrow your toolkit because you're in another part of your transformation. So it's this constant kind of dedication, devotion to yourself in the healing journey.
Oh, yes, that is so beautiful. It's so true. It's the devotion you have to yourself on the journey. Beautiful. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Something that I've learned, it started with like, motivation, and then commitment or dedication. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's like you kind of have to devote yourself. Like, you see yourself in this light. Like, and to be honest, like, that kind of comes towards the end of a healing journey, where you're like loving yourself and trusting yourself.
Yeah.
But it's this constant devotion to yourself that really makes the difference.
Yeah, to really, I feel like something I've been experiencing as well is kind of like getting to the space to where every single time you take that time to get to know yourself, you're getting to another layer. You're discovering something else, So it's like you're constantly choosing to continue to explore within yourself. And like you said, when you're sitting in a meditation and you have no guidance, it's allowing the unknown of, where's my mind going to go? Where am I going to go? What do I need to see? What is my subconscious trying to tell me? What's inside of me? When you really get to that space to where you're just starting to go like within yourself. Oh yeah, it's been a long time to get here. That's for sure.
In my last 7 years of my journey, like, I've discovered the 3 stages of the healing journey. And this is something that I've just experienced on my own. Like, a lot of there was no book out there. Like I said, like 7 years ago, there was like barely any mental health. Like, it was still being stigmatized. It wasn't really out there. And it's been more throughout the years. But in my own journey, like, I have found these 3 stages, and it's exactly what I've named my handle, Sun, Lotus, Snake, because there's those 3 stages. Like, there's the sun. And for me, the sun has been the stage of awareness, of mindfulness, in learning how to go inward. And then the lotus, so cliche, out of the mud comes a lotus, is really doing the inner work. Like, you're in the mud, you're working at it, you're seeing the ugly, but you're there. And then once you bloom, you go into your snake, where you are starting to shed the old you, the old parts.
Yep.
You're starting to let go and accepting this new skin. And I also associate myself, or I have this connection with snakes, because they're often seen as this negative, ugly thing. And someone who has been through this part, like, you almost feel like this ugly, negative thing in so many ways, but you're still you. You're just shedding this part and you're learning. And so it's accepting and also embracing your pain and who you were and who you are now becoming. And so that is really what I teach when I do like one-on-one, is going through these stages and learning how to navigate those stages. And it might not be the same for everybody, but that's something that I've discovered in the last 7 years of my own experience.
Yeah, oh, I love that. I had no idea that your name was even connected to that, like your handles and stuff. So I absolutely love hearing the back end of what that really means, because it's so true. It is so true, especially the lotus part, when you're like finally like getting out of that and you're still in there, but you're starting to grow. And especially the snake. I've also been someone who always resonates with the snake. Whenever I've done like shamanic healing work, the snake direction is always very prevalent for me, because I always feel like, yeah, where you're in different stages of your healing, when you're in different stages of life or different stuff that you're facing, when you're finally slowly coming out of it and the skin is coming off, you know, sometimes it's painful, right? But when you allow it to just shed and you're ready to transform into that new version of yourself and like release what no longer serves you, that is just so powerful. And I don't know why my cameras be like this today. I'm back. Anyways. But yeah, allowing yourself to shed everything that no longer serves you is such an important part of the journey, and definitely the big lesson that you get from snakes. And yeah, snakes, I mean, they're scary if they're in your face, but they're beautiful creatures. They don't have to be, you know, feared. Or I know, like you said, people see it as like, oh, you're a snake. You know, like people like to make those comments that like snakes are deceiving and stuff like that. But I'm like, if you really want to sit and look at the teachings that the snake can actually give you, it's much more about transformation, about beauty, about becoming that next version of yourself. So, I mean, you can choose to see the negative in everything, right? And you can choose to learn the lesson from everything as well. So I love that it comes from your name. Now that we're at the end, I wanted you to take some time to just kind of share, where can people find you? Where can they support you? How can someone contact you if they want to do your coaching or listen to your meditation? So just kind of, you know, have some time for you to shamelessly plug yourself in there. So go for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, so my handle is sunlotussnake.healing on TikTok, on Instagram, and I have my websites linked there through Snipfeed. So you can find my website, you can find my meditations on SoundCloud, on YouTube. I also do have a podcast, which is kind of on pause right now, and it's named The Spiritual Snake. Again, I resonate so much with the snake. So I've put some episodes there on the healing journey if you're interested. And I am currently taking clients for one-on-one coaching. There's the healing journey coaching that I do, and it's a 3-month package where we go through these different stages of the sun lotus snake, and it's like one per month. So you can begin with that if you are starting your healing journey, or if you're stuck somewhere in your healing journey. But yeah, you can find me in all those different avenues.
Yeah, definitely. Anyone that's healing. I meant to say anyone listening to this, anyone hearing. Definitely, if you feel the call, you feel like you resonate with Leslie's message and everything that we spoke about, definitely go follow and support and see if you want to become a client as well. We're all on this journey, and anytime we can get support or get a guide is so important. So if you're feeling called to, go for it.